After yesterday's rain-soaked dramas, the action continues in round 4 of the International GT Open with race 2 from the Hungaroring, this 4.381-kilometre circuit where overtaking has proven to be difficult in the past. Let's see what the drivers of 30 GT3 cars have to say about that. Qualifying this morning, it was all about Ferrari, the 296 locking out the top 3 on the grid, with they, of course, locking out the front row as well, with the Ferrari Challenge champion Alessio Dono taking pole position in his first GT Open qualifying, ahead of the Spirit of Race entered number 51 of Vincent Abril, who finished second yesterday. Chris Stevens and George Morgan in the commentary box. And George, well, after yesterday's very dramatic end to the race, I'm very much looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. I think off the back of seeing the weather conditions right now, things have definitely taken a bit of a twist. We have now got scorching hot conditions. The overcast skies have now dissipated from this morning. So on the general outlook of things, it doesn't look like the rain is going to play a factor, much like it did at the end of race 1, which I'm sure won't, I suppose, improve the positive thoughts and the mindset of Michael Pitamba. But you never know, things might change here this time. But credit goes to those at the front end. Alessio Dono, his first ever qualifying session with him in the car, and he took pole.
Yeah, and his first year of GT3 competition, competing in GT World Challenge Europe this season after winning a Ferrari Challenge last year.
Okay, that's perfect. But you have to keep the same distance. You cannot be before. That's what I said. Okay.
Oh, some last-minute clarifications on the starting rules there for Vincent Abril. But yeah, just to finish up on Alessio Dono, standing in for Giorgio Cernighiotto this weekend, who's racing in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. David Fuminelli, also a substitute driver there in 3rd position in the Racing 1 Ferrari, standing in for Luca Ludwig, who's racing in Ferrari Challenge this weekend with Mertal Motorsport. So it was all about Ferrari in qualifying, but of course the 1st and 3rd place cars are Pro-Am entries, and the 2nd place car, the 51, has a 5-second handicap to take. This car, yesterday's race winners, Christopher Haase and Simon Riker, starting in 4th position, they have a 10-second handicap to take. So it's anyone's game at this point.
It really is, and I must say there's many other cars that do stand a great chance. We've harked about the potential the Porsche carries. Nico Menzel with quite a staunch racing pedigree behind him. His career has certainly been full of excellent results, and coming off the back of qualifying where they had issues back in race 1 with the traction, and obviously on top of that other faults with the car, they still managed to challenge back, and they're trying to obviously source redemption off the back of a tricky Spa round.
Yes, so it seems to be some recurring electronic issues on that number 15 car collection Porsche. Nico Menzel had to run on the wet track yesterday on slick tyres, as everyone else did, but he did it without traction control and without ABS running on his car. So that probably made life quite difficult for Menzel in there. We saw a glimpse of Maximilian Paul, another substitute driver for this weekend, standing in for Jordan Pepper, who's also racing in IMSA aboard the number 10. New championship leaders after their 4th podium finish of the season. The number 17 Team Motorpark crew. We have Diego Menchaca in the car and Marcos Seibert joining him on the grid. He'll be in the car a little bit later on. And that car yet to take a win, but consistency has served them well in the championship so far.
Yeah, Simon Connor Prim also stepping in this weekend. And not a bad visit for the German driver. Oregon team at Lamborghini. We saw Maximilian Paul earlier on, starting from 6 on the grid. They have been known to pull out rabbits out of the hat before. And you never know, Simon Connor Prim could be just the man for the job. Further back then, Marco Polcini, fresh from winning the Pro-Am class yesterday, obviously alongside Eddie Cheever, who put in a blistering stint where he was pressurising the front end of the order, hunting down a potential positive result against Dominic Bauerman, but coming in towards the tail end of the race, even with the rain cascading down, nothing could stop Marco Polcini's superior defence.
Fastest bronze driver in qualifying was Marco Polcini, up in 10th position overall and 4th amongst the Pro-Am runners, but that's another heavily handicapped car with 10 seconds after their victory yesterday. Lorenzo Fluxa making his first appearance in the GT Open. We saw him in the Euro Formula Open paddock earlier in the year in Portimao, now in the GT Open, and that could be a more permanent change. But of course, he's also competing in the European Le Mans Series with Cool Racing in LMP2, so can't make all the rounds, but we could see him at a fair few more races. Penny for the thoughts of this man, Mikhail Pitamba. That car led all the way up until the penultimate lap when the conditions got so tricky. Slick tyres, wet track. Mikhail just one of those who unfortunately came a cropper. Yeah,
he was very unfortunate, really. When the rain came down, penultimate lap of the race, he did his best to maintain the grip levels, despite Christopher Haase closing him down every inch. Christian Korzanowski as well, lining up in the Ferrari for Olymp Racing. We spoke to him in the paddock just now, and he is very unsure about the setup they've brought to the table this weekend. They're trying something a little different ahead of this second race, but unsure as to how it's going to fare when we hit go time. Another car that fell afoul of the conditions yesterday was the number 9 Get Speed. This car right here, Anthony Bartone pitching his car into the barriers. It was another non-points finish for the number 9 crew, their second of the season, and so they really need to keep it on the straight and narrow for the rest of the season, because you get 2 drop scores throughout the season. Well, they've had 2 zeros now. Yeah, Adam Osaka and Kiki Saknana coming in with a chance at lifting the AM Championship this season, should they continue the great run of form they've been on. In behind them, Marcin Jedlinski. You can see Karol Bash eventually taking his turn in the hot seat when the driver change window opens up. Karol, of course, qualified very strongly for yesterday's race and was hunting down, and even Christopher Haase alluded to the fact that Karol Bash is such an immense driver and certainly does a lot of groundwork for the Olymp Racing team. Marcin Jedlinski also ever improving in behind the wheel of that Audi R8 LMS. But we're taking a picturesque view across this grid as we get ready for race time. Race 2 here at Hungaroring at Budapest. 30 cars making up the grid. Mercedes, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches, Audis, and one sole McLaren on the grid from Greystone GT. Very healthy field of competitors, and the most richly entered category being the Pro-Am, where the fight has been more fierce than ever, and it has been fierce at times, let me tell you that. And a great pro fight as well, with cars all the way down in 15th position overall from the pro runners. So there will be quite a bit of action trying to clear the Pro-Am cars in front of them, particularly in the second half of the race when the driver change window has ended. Let's take a look back at what happened yesterday. It was Dominic Baumann who started on pole position in the white and purple SPS Mercedes. He was chased by Eddie Cheever and Karol Bash off the line as Fabian Schiller ended up running a little bit wide at the first corner. Marco Polcini took over the number 27. Then the heavens opened right in the closing stages of the race. That changed the game entirely. Anthony Bartone, first of all, clearing Polcini's car, but then this moment on the exit of turn 3, just got the car onto the AstroTurf and then into the barriers. That wrote an end to the number 9's day, unfortunately. Christopher Haase taking full advantage of that. He was catching Pitamba at seconds per lap right up until this moment for the South African. An unfortunate spin while leading on the penultimate lap of the race. Haase was chased home by Vincent Abril in the Spirit of Race Ferrari, but it was a second victory of the season for East Talent Racing's Christopher Haase and Simon Riker. And with Team Motorpark on the podium once again, that has put them at the head of the championship on 54 points. Mikhail Grenier and Al-Faisal Al-Zubair, effectively a ghost entry. They're a part-time entry, so effectively 4 points to Dominic Baumann and Mikhail Pitamba in second. Alessio De Leda not too far behind as well, with Christopher Haase and Simon Riker right in there as well. Just 9 points off the championship lead ahead of race 2. So the formation lap about to get underway. Here is how they line up for the next 60 minutes of racing. Alessio Dono on his GT Open debut, starting from pole position ahead of the sister AF Corsa car, Vincent Abril. Racing 1's David Fuminelli goes from third, and ahead of yesterday's race winner, Christopher Haase in fourth. Nico Menzel hoping all is well aboard that car collection Porsche, now in fifth, ahead of Maximilian Paul. Yannick Mettler going from 7th in the car barn, ahead of our new championship leader, Diego Menchaca, Simon Connor-Prim and Marco Polcini, the top bronze driver, going from 10th position. Lorenzo Fluxer and Marzio Moretti, Team Motorpark and Team Oregon, lining up on the 6th row of the grid.
Yesterday's nearly winner, Mikhail Pitamba, ahead of the AM pole sitter, Christian Korzanowski, in 14th. Then Anthony Bartone, hoping to make up for yesterday's disappointment, ahead of yesterday's AM winner, Adam Osaka. Marcin Jedlinski goes from 17th, ahead of the local team and hero, Daniel Nagy, and Morten Stromsted and Valentin Pierberg. Again, 2 Mercedes from Motorpark and Get Speed lining up 19th and 20th. Heiko Neumann and Marcelo Hahn on the 11th row of the grid. Libor Milotta and then Florian Scholz returning to the GT Open in the Attempto Racing Audi. It'll be Alex Acker in the car later on. Giuseppe Cipriani, the AM Championship leader, ahead of Bashar Mardini in 25th and 26th. Stephen Gray filling in for Lewis Proctor in the Greystone GT McLaren, ahead of Michael Blanchemont in the Valois Corsa Mercedes. And then on the back row of the grid, it's Hash in the car collection Porsche. And Gino Fulgioni had all his times deleted as his car crashed in qualifying. They undertook repairs during the qualifying session, so they've had all of their lap times deleted, and Gino has to go from the back of the field. Formation lap is well underway.
Certainly is. And the final opportunity for those cars to get those tyres into the right window. Humidity dramatically different to what we had yesterday. Remember, we were in the realms of the 80 to 90%. It is now come down, well, immensely. We're now at 54% coming in for this one, which will affect the drag here at this point. But obviously, given the way the cars are now lined up, huge opportunity here for Alessio Dono on his GT Open debut. He managed to debut in qualifying as well, taking a debut pole position, which will mean a lot to him. But it's his task now to try and take some sort of advantage, Chris.
The track temperature as well, vastly different to what it was yesterday. It was in the low 30s. Now it's approaching 50 degrees, the hottest we've seen it since the Friday running, where it was well in excess of 50 degrees. So the practice running might be more important for this race, and the tyre wear in particular could be of paramount importance by the time we get to the end of the 2 stints. But it'll be Ferraris 1, 2 and 3. The blue Ferrari from AF Corsa on the left-hand side, the Spirit of Race red car, Vincent Abril on the right-hand side. We are racing in Budapest, and not a great launch made by the pole sitter. Vincent Abril gets the jump on young Dono straight away, but standing his ground is the Ferrari Challenge champion, but 3 wide, and he gets a tag. Does Vincent Abril from Haase behind him, and collected in all of that was the championship leading Mercedes from Team Motorpark. Diego Menchaca absolutely dead last at the end of the first corner, and so it is our pole sitter Alessio Dono who has survived and managed to hang on to the lead just about ahead of David Fuminelli.
Well, a dramatic moment to kick things off in this race. Mikhail Pitamba is also on the move as well, just tucked down in towards 2 and 2, and is on the rise, as is Christopher Haase alike. We'd firmly expect that for sure. David Fuminelli as a consequence, obviously rising up through the order now. 2nd place, Menzel in 3rd, Mettler up to 4th, Connor Prim not getting a bad start either, but Vincent Abril, I think, was the catalyst in that collision that occurred between him and also Menchaca.
Well, he got a tag from Haase behind. Whether he got a tag as well, we'll have to wait and see a replay. But look at Mikhail Pitamba from 13th to 6th in the first sector of this race. An absolutely lightning start from the South African in the purple and white Mercedes. This is on board with Bashar Mardini a little bit further down the pack in 25th position. Flying through the middle sector, he's got Michael Blanchemont right in front of him, but back with the leaders. It's Pro-Am cars 1 and 2 at the moment. This is Christian Korzanowski rounding up one of the Motorpark Mercedes in front of him. That'll be Morten Stromsted, who's just gone wide there on the exit of turn number 11. And the Polish driver makes his way through into 13th position. And so Nico Menzel here and Car Collection are suddenly in a fantastic position to try and take the fight to the front of the field. They're the leading pro car, and they are unhandicapped for this race. But at the end of the first lap, Alessio Dono leads by 1 second to David Fuminelli. Nico Menzel half a second ahead of Yannick Mettler, Simon Connor Prim, and then Mikhail Pitamba. Vincent Abril down to 7th. Lorenzo Fluxa up to 8th. Maximilian Paul in 9th. And then Christopher Haase, after that first corner contact, all the way down in 10th position. And Anthony Bartone up into 11th. But a big contact up at the front. 2 Motorpark cars, one heavily buried into the barriers. A hugely dramatic moment. That's Morten Stromsted, so more drama for the Dane. And we have a safety car out, unsurprisingly, because that was a hard hit into the barriers. two motor park cars seemingly coming to blows.
Wow.
And it is the AM car that has been caught up in it as well. Heiko Neumann with big damage on the front left corner of that car. And he's pulled up at turn 2. By the looks of it, that will go no further. Look at the angle of the front left tyre there. That is some aggressive camber if I've ever seen. And thankfully, it is Morten Stromsted, and he has gotten out of the car, which is great to see after what looked like a hard hit into the barriers.
Yeah, it's not the first time he's had one either. He had one in qualifying coming through turn 2, which caused the initial red flag at the start of qualifying. But yes, that was a big hit for Morten Stromsted. Obviously getting caught up, 2 motor park cars bound together, Heiko Neumann being the other one, both of them certainly not faring very well. In fact, that's 3 motor park cars now that have had incidents at the very start of this race, Menchaca being the first of them to fall to the back of the order. So it's been a sorrowful display, certainly one of their worst starts, you could argue, in International GT Open history, but still.
Well, the bottom 3 cars at 28th, 29th and 30th are all motor park cars. So, wow, what an absolutely disastrous start to the race. Menchaca getting caught up at the first corner. Here's a replay of the start. So we see Vincent Abril initially get the jump, but Alessio Dono comes right back at him.
Oh,
and
yes.
Haase did not get a tag from behind. He went into the back of Abril, who then tagged Menchaca.
Dominant.
And unsurprisingly, the team manager of car number 1, East Talent Racing, has been called to race control to answer for that incident. And oh wow, this was before the lights even went out. Daniel Nagy there, the team and driver making their GT3 debut this weekend. Maximilian Paul got into the back of Haase as well, but that was after the initial contact. Wow, a very dramatic opening lap here. And then this is what has happened. Oh my goodness me. So Morten Stromsted, some sort of brake failure perhaps. Or was that...
I think Heiko went to the side of Morten.
Yes, sorry, it was the other way around, wasn't it? So Heiko Neumann's out of the car. So that looks like some sort of issue, potentially on Heiko Neumann's car, that has speared him into Morten Stromsted.
That's quite the collision, but good to see both drivers out of the car at the very least. Obviously, that's a really unfortunate start for Team Motor Park. They are certainly now 3 cars, removed to the back of the grid, 2 of them out of the race anyway. Menchaca's still active and running around at the back of the field. He has caught up due to the safety car, so that's at least something. But
big damage on the back of that car, though. It was a whole chunk that got taken off. And
it's not going to help the aero.
If it hasn't been fully shaken off, he may well face the black and orange flag, the mechanical flag for that one, to get it torn off. But maybe they can do it under this safety car. Just if it is still hanging off the back of it, they can rip it off real quick. And see Haase's Audi there, damage at the front, damage at the rear. We saw the Nagy Mercedes as well, which is this car, the Mercedes there, that's got some damage on the front of it after what seemed like a variation in who was going to go when at the start, and that Zengo Motorsport team doesn't have any spares, so hopefully it's not too badly damaged.
And interestingly enough, it now throws a bone to the likes of Team Oregon, and also what about Mikael Pitamba, who is also sitting just behind some of these. You've got quite a feast of talents just waiting to take their turn in behind. Simon Connor Prim, Mikael Pitamba, Vincent Abril, of course, was in that initial contact. There's Heiko Neumann up the inside, makes contact with Morten Stromsted, who then pretty much flies into the tyre barrier. And a sorry state of affairs for the entirety of the Motor Park team. Clearly, Morten explaining to the marshal as to what had happened.
That's the internationally recognised driver language of I got whacked. Now, that looked like Diego Menchaca headed for pit lane there, just at the back of the field. And
yes, he has.
Yes, I can see it out the window. He has come into pit lane. And
coming in for an assessment, I'd imagine, of the bodywork of the car.
That bodywork is still hanging off. They're going to have to get it ripped off.
Yeah, you can't drive with that.
Changed. That will invoke the mechanical flag, I'd have thought, because if that comes flying off, well, that's not good news for anybody. So the team that took the championship lead yesterday, you see even Team Boss, Timo Rumpkyle getting involved in that as well, and like a dentist drill. And that's so painful to watch them just tearing away at that beautiful Mercedes bodywork. And they've got the drills out, they've got the sanders, everything they can to try and rip through that as quickly as possible. Menchaca trying to get some air there with the door open, but as long as they don't go a lap down, Diego can continue around and catch up to the rest of the safety car queue. And, well, that is one Frankenstein-looking Mercedes that has just gone back out onto the track.
We've just witnessed open heart surgery here in the International GT Open.
There he goes.
So out goes Diego Menchaca. Certainly not an ideal start for Team Motor Park, but nevertheless, at least they can continue. And just look at it, open. The skeleton has been revealed on the back of that Mercedes-AMG GT3, but it will allow him obviously to catch up with the rest of the cars. Safety car is still out. There is an Oregon car, the 63, belonging to Simon Connor Prim, and he's also got a fellow Oregon Lamborghini in the top 10, Maximilian Paul, with a great chance to, I would say, follow suit with the heroics from last season. Who knows? With the way this race has gone already from the start, we saw certainly madness in the final 2 laps yesterday. We've seen madness in the first 2 laps today.
Very, yeah, Hungary always delivers the dramatics, doesn't it? So, still Ferraris 1 and 2. It's AF Corsa leading Racing 1, Alessio Dono and David Fuminelli. Nico Menzel third in the car collection Porsche. Then Yannick Mettler third of the Pro-Am runners in the car barn by SPS Mercedes. Simon Connor Prim, the Lamborghini Junior, filling in for Rolf Eichen as he recovers from his Spa injury. In 5th position, then Mikel Pitamber's 6th. Vincent Abril from the front row of the grid down to 7th. Lorenzo Fluxer, Maximilian Paul and Christopher Haase completing the top 10. Anthony Bartone, Marco Polcini right behind him as well. And then our AM leader, Christian Korzanowski. Of course, if you've got your quick driver in at the moment, or if you've got a handicap, this safety car is an absolute nightmare for you, because you want to go out and build a massive gap for your gentleman driver to go into.
Yeah, absolutely right. So obviously for those who are starting with that pro driver, this is never an ideal situation. But I mean, if you look at some of the other drivers, certainly in the pro class, obviously Pitambra will be throwing over to Dominic Baumann, who went fastest in qualifying for race 1 yesterday. And no doubt he'll be looking to bring his absolute best to try and recover at least something after yesterday's incident. Vincent Abreu will be handing over to Nicola Marinangeli, who he also caught up in the paddock earlier on. And Yannick Mettler, not forgetting, of course, alluding to those pro entries in the Pro-Am cars. It will be the case, obviously, with Alessio Dono. He'll be throwing across to his teammate later on. That, of course, being, by the looks of it, for Team Oregon. Well, not for Team Oregon, I do apologise. For Alessandro Cosi later on. David Fuminelli will be swapping out for Ernst Kirkmeyer. Got Nico Menzel in 3rd. Gustav Bergström be taking over from him later on. Safety car coming in this lap now, so it won't be long before we're up to full speed.
So it'll be Alessio Dono who will lead the field when the safety car comes in. And just see where Diego Menchaca has been able to catch the back of the pack by the looks of it. So he will go from 28th position, a very tall order for the Mexican to try and get his way up the field before his stint ends. We've still got 13 minutes until the driver change window opens. Marcos Seber came in at the earliest opportunity yesterday, so I imagine Menchaca will try and stretch this as much as possible. But the safety car has peeled in. Alessio Dono now going for his first safety car restart in a GT3 car. But I'm sure he'll be used to them from his Ferrari Challenge and Italian GT experience. We go green once again. We are back racing in Budapest, and Dono leads them around, and Nico Menzel is right on the back of David Fuminelli's Ferrari for 2nd position. And so it's the twin-turbo V6 against the rear-mounted flat 6 in the Porsche coming down the straight as we go into the first corner to Lamborghini's looking for places up on the inside. And that is the number 19, Marzio Moretti, rounding up the AM leader, Christian Korzanowski. Marzio Moretti up into 13th position now as Christopher Haase tries to find a way around Maximilian Paul and get himself back up at the head of the field. 3 wide further back, though, between Marzio Moretti, Christian Korzanowski and Adam Osaka. And the 2 cars 2nd and 3rd in that queue are fighting for the AM lead. The Olymp Ferrari, who we're on board with, and the bright yellow Mercedes from Get Speed behind him. But Marzio Moretti just took that position, and it seemed like Christian Korzanowski wasn't taking it lying down.
He certainly wasn't, trying to fight him back coming through turn 3 out of turn 2 as they now peel through turn 6 and 7 at the chicane. Coming on the outset of it, you just saw Christopher Haase in shot, still trying to close up on the back of Max Paul, as we now see another car just licking the dirt on the right-hand side. The ISR Audi under pressure as well from Daniel Nagy for Zengo Motorsport, the hometown hero, looking to represent Hungary this time around. Plenty of fans here in the grandstands looking to cheer their hometown hero on as Nagy comes through this next right-hander, coming through towards the final sector very shortly on this very lap, and he'll continue to pursue, I'm sure. Great to see the Hungarian fans out here in support of their hometown man.
Anthony Bartone with Marco Polcini for close company. They're coming through the penultimate corner. Polcini, obviously the Pro-Am winner from yesterday. A little wide there for Bartone. So this is Marcin Jedlinski chasing the back of the Hungarian Daniel Nagy down the front straight aboard the Audi R8. And Alessio Dono doing the fastest lap of the race. His lead is 9/10 of a second over David Fuminelli. And for as strong a restart as it was for Nico Menzel initially out of the final corner, he's dropped 1.2 seconds back from Fuminelli on that previous lap. So the Porsche not quite able to take advantage of its what looked like a strong restart.
Yannick Mettler as well getting closer to the back of Nico Menzel at this point. 0.5 of a second now is all that separates them as they peel through over the crest of turn 4. And Christian Korzanowski still not leaving Marzio Moretti at all as they now come down in towards the chicane at turn 6 and 7. Still all in tandem as now we see them still. The gap's thinner. Marginal, just like a, fly's eyelash at this point. As we see now, Haase stretch on through. There you can see the bunch falling out in behind. Dono just peeling through with Fuminelli heading after him as well. There you can see Mikel Pitamba doing his utmost to try and keep his competitors at bay. Vincent Abril trying to urge himself close to the back of the Mercedes, who is now catching up with that Oregon in front.
And Polcini did get past Bartone there for 11th position, and Bartone has now got Marzio Moretti for very close company. And so this is a replay of how Moretti made the initial move on Christian Korzanowski. The Polish driver getting the up and under there very nicely, trying to challenge the Lamborghini into turn 2. We saw they were 3 wide, pretty much going into turn number 2 with Adamo Seca getting involved in there as well on the inside. Just a little tag with the Olymp Ferrari, his class rival there. Christian did very well to gather that up, actually, but Moretti holding on. He's now on the back of Bartone for 12th position. And we're going to see it from on board. So there was already contact on the way into the corner with Moretti running a little wide. Christian trying to come underneath him, and then he get a tag from the rear from the Get Speed Mercedes for good measure.
Rejoining the action now on screen, we've got Nico Menzel, Alessio Dono setting the fastest lap over this last lap, obviously looking to try and make the most of his initial stinks. He will be throwing over to Alessandro Cosi later on. Very important and imperative they can build that gap between he and David Fuminelli, and as a consequence as well, Nico Menzel, who will be swapping in for Gustav Bergström, the Swede, who unfortunately came undone after a collision with Nicola Marinangeli at the start of the Spa 500. So now we ride on board with Maximilian Paul coming out of turn 7 through towards turn 8, riding on the rear of the Mercedes in front as they peel through this next right out of turn 11 and hustle down towards turn 12. The gap's now starting to decline slightly between 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Motorpark still with Lorenzo Flusha in this top 10 fight, so they are cheering somebody on who is well within the points equation. So who knows, could be the turn of Lorenzo Flusha this time.
Through the penultimate corner, 43 minutes left on the clock, 7 until the driver change window opens. And Alessio Dono's advantage now 1.5 seconds over David Fuminelli. Christopher Haase there looking very close on the back of Maximilian Paul. Of course, these two cars went toe-to-toe in Paul Ricard last year. I think it was Pierre-Louis Chauvet at the wheel on that particular occasion in the 6-3. Of course, Maximilian Paul, part of the lineup that fought for the title last year, had more wins than anyone last year, did Paul and Chauvet, and competing in DTM this year, but we could see him back in the GT Open in further rounds of the championship. So this is Diego Menchaca trying to come back up through the field and making contact with the Michael Blanchemont Villova Corsa Mercedes. Menchaca has got himself up into 22nd position. Remember, he was 28th at the restart. So he is making quick progress, having had to come into the pits to remove that rear bodywork. He's on board with Maximilian Paul. Can't see the chasing Haase behind him, and that might be for the best.
Yeah, it might be, at least for now. Obviously with Diego Menchaca losing a little bit of bodywork earlier on, does make the car a little bit lighter here at this stage, so maybe that'll help him move his way through some of the field, but you can imagine the frustration still very much paramount for Menchaca, who would have, I would imagine, hoped for something a little better this weekend. They did manage to achieve P3 after the deluge we had towards the end of the first race that saw Pitamba spin out. And speaking of who, he is on our screens right now on the tail of Conor Prim and has made progress to catch up with the Oregon Lamborghini in 5th place. In terms of Conor Prim right now, 2.1 off the back of Yannick Mettler, so there is somewhat of a draft starting to appear as Maximilian Paul gets closer and closer in behind Lorenzo Flusha in a pursuit of that 8th place. But they're all in a string, all benefiting from some straight line speed and slipstream as they head down in towards turn 1. You can see there Vincent Abril, who finished second, very nearly taking victory yesterday in the closing stages against Christopher Haase, who is also in this fight.
Now the fastest lap of the race from our race leader, Eliseo Dono. The gap now 2 seconds to David Fuminelli, who in turn is nearly 3 seconds clear of Nico Menzel. But then we've got a train of cars here being led by Simon Conor Prim, Michael Pitamba second in the queue, Vincent Abril, Lorenzo Flusha, Maximilian Paul, and Christopher Haase. And then Marco Polcini not too far behind as well. Polcini going absolutely gun-ho. He's a bronze driver, remember, but he's on the back of nearly on the back of an Audi Works driver.
Yeah, certainly is. It's getting closer and closer in that midfield, or should I say that mid-top 10. See there, 5 tenths between Haase and Paul, 5 tenths between Paul and Flusha, 3 tenths between Flusha and the driver in front of him, Vincent Abril, as they now come through the latter point of Sector 2. There's the group now. We watch on from the garages as they wait tentatively for the driver change window to occur. And it's not too far away, in fact, around 4 minutes and 10 to go. Eliseo Dono setting another fastest lap of the race, so 1:44.849 ahead of David Fuminelli. The gap now extending to 2.4, so Dono starting to find that clean air, but would have probably wanted considerably more and would have probably got more had the safety car not come out.
So coming up to complete lap 10 in this race so far. Simon Conor Prim leads them down the straight from 5th position. Michael Pitamba in hot pursuit in the number 20 SPS Mercedes, car that's looking very strong in the championship as it stands, as was this car, Chris Vaars's East Talent Racing Audi. Obviously still a long way to go before we can tot up the points from this weekend. We see Lorenzo Flusha, their LMP2 race winner this year in the European Le Mans Series, turning his hand to GT3 competition. All right, more moves here from Diego Menchaca, rounding up Marcin Jedlinski. And now, what position was that for? It was for 20th position. So the number 17 now up into the top 20 ahead of Marcin. Second in the Pro-Am Championship is that 777 Olymp Audi. You see the gap ebbing and flowing here between Nico Menzel and Yannick Mettler. It's around 3/4 of a second as it stands. As last time around, Eliseo Dono did another fastest lap of the race. The gap now 3.3 up at the front of the field. This youngster is absolutely flying.
He's been stellar in Ferrari Challenge, obviously the champion in Pro Class, and at the same time, off the back of the World Final, just narrowly missing out on the victory, finishing runner-up in that instance, but also competing in Italian GT. And he's going faster again in the first 2 sectors here is Eliseo Dono. And on top of that, he's the only driver lapping in the 144s in this race so far. His last lap being a 1:44.425 that gave him the fastest lap of the race. And I believe he's just stretched it again here on this very lap as we now see them make their way down the stretch. Once again, Pitamba on the tail of Conor Prim. A battle between Mercedes and Lamborghini. Oregon looking to chase back Hungarian success. Of course, former champions back in 2022 with Leonardo Polcini, who too will be in the car later on as they now head down through turn 2. Christopher Haase all over the back and chasing down Maximilian Paul back in his famed pink, yellow and green colours that took him to the top step of the podium here last season as they climb it through towards turn 4 again. And now Pitamba very wary of the driver that's in behind. Remember, Abril, part of that contingent in the fight with Christopher Haase that would go on to lay claim to victory yesterday. Vincent Abril finishing in second. And Pitamba forced to swallow that occurrence, but back again, and this time his car is in front of the pair of them.
Oh, Haase just kicking up a little bit of dirt there on the exit of the chicane. He's not the first driver to do that this weekend, and I sincerely doubt he will be the last. See the damage on the front of that car as a result of the first corner contact with Vincent Abril. That really kicked things off in this race, didn't it? 36 minutes left on the clock, and here we're seeing the, we saw this yesterday with drivers being significantly faster, but still really struggling to overtake, and Simon Conor Prim is soaking up the pressure from behind absolutely beautifully at the moment. The Lamborghini Junior, who is again in his first year of GT3 competition as well, but competing in GT Masters this year, is the young German. You see, not too far off the back of Yannick Mettler's Mercedes either. 3.5 seconds is the gap to the Carbahn Mercedes in 4th. Of course, Pro-Am 1, 2 and 3 all in the top 4 at the moment. More moves from Menchaca, this time on Daniel Nagy. And so he has... well, actually, I was about to say which position that was for, but the 17 has bailed for the pit lane at the earliest opportunity. Marcos Seeber has gotten aboard the car now. Michael Blanchimont and Bashar Mardini also into pit lane, as is the number 6 Getsby, Valentin Pierberg, and the number 12 car collection Porsche Hash has come in, as has the Gino Forgione Spirit of Race Ferrari. So these are the early stoppers. I imagine the plan for Motorpark here is to get the number 17 into some clean air and try and just use the pace that they have in that car to try and jump some of those ahead of him. But it's worth remembering as well, they've still got 5 seconds of handicap to take as well.
They do. Obviously, with the fact that Seabear's in the car, if you do put him in that clean air, you know he's going to give you some serious laps, and they need them right now to at least try and undercut those that are further up. But that's going to be a hard mission still, nonetheless, despite Seabear's brilliant pace as we now rejoin this battle in the mid-top 10. Conor Prim, we're just seeing a couple of cars now peel off into the pit lane. I think looking back, Marco Polcini is coming in, so that will mean that Eddie Cheever takes over as we now see them fly down the home straight. In comes Mikel Pitamba. Dominic Baumann is going to step into the car. They've got to serve 5 seconds here at this point before making their way around and heading out on track once again. Still though, Dono out in front.
Yeah, the 27 having to take 10 seconds there, the Polcini Cheever car, as in comes Marzio Moretti. Artem Petrov getting aboard the number 19, and we see, is that the 65? Look like it's a Timo on the back of the overalls there, but that car out of the pits. I wonder if they're just borrowing overalls down there, but get speed in as well. The number 9, Anthony Bartone, handing over to Mercedes Works driver Fabian Schiller. Fresh set of boots going on the car as well. But continuing on, Simon Conor Prim, as has Vincent Abril, Max Paul and Christopher Haase. The ISR Audi into the pit lane as well. Out comes Baumann in the SBS Mercedes. Daniel Nagy in the box there we can see as well. They picked up a penalty yesterday for not serving the handicap correctly, so slight rookie error there, you'd imagine. Hopefully it will be all smooth today as Lucas Dunner emerges in the number 96 Motorpark Mercedes. One of the few Motorpark cars left fighting up at the front of the field in this one. But let's see how Marcos Seibert manages to recover. As in comes Christopher Haase in the East Talent Audi as well. Now we're really going to get into some traffic here. So Marcos Seibert coming out ahead of Alex Acker in the Attempto Racing Audi. But in comes Christopher Haase, handing over to Simon Riker. Now, that's interesting because you'd expect normally Christopher to run this right down to the clock, but we've still got about 8 minutes left on the driver change window.
Yeah, stepping into the car now, Simon Riker, after a brilliant first stint in yesterday's first race. Obviously, Christopher Haase, unfortunately, getting caught up at turn 1 at the very start, had to do his best to try and recover the situation, but obviously just bringing the car in for this stop. Hopefully they can get a nice jump and make their way back out onto the track. In comes the Greystone GT McLaren 720S. Stuart Proctor coming in, and Stephen Gray will hop out, allowing Proctor to take over. Of course, Lewis not here this weekend due to getting married, and therefore I'm sure cheering on his father as well as they look ahead to potentially securing a decent result this weekend. But still now, with 31 minutes and 40 still to go, there is Alessio Dono still continuing to put out fastest laps. His last lap was his fastest again, a 1:44.405. And despite not improving on this particular lap, he is still lapping very quickly indeed. The only man setting 1:44s against everyone else who is still in the realms of 1:45s and 1:46s as he makes his way around turn 14 and heading down the long straight to beckon his way down towards turn 1, being closely pursued by David Fuminelli. Nico Menzel still out there on track, will be swapping out for Gustav Bergström when the time comes. Yannick Mettler will be swapping over for Dexter Buller. Don't forget, as now we see a little bit of action here, Dominic Baumann, of course, now in the car, trying to chase down this Oregon Lamborghini of Polcini, who is now stretching up through towards turn 4. Through towards turn 5 now, still the Mercedes in hot pursuit, but Polcini doing enough to keep the Lamborghini ahead of the Merc.
Just about top 8 are yet to stop. So this is for these are the 2 lead cars that have made their pit stops. In comes Nico Menzel and Vincent Abril as well. So now we've got the top 6 yet to stop. And there we see Gustav Bergström getting aboard the number 15 car collection Porsche, but Dominic Baumann eager to do something about this Oregon car right in front of him. Worth remembering, the top 3 cars at the moment are Pro-Am cars, so they're going to be handing over to their gentleman driver in the next stint. Expect them to drop back a little bit as the Pro cars make their way through. But Alessio Dono doing a fantastic job to give Alessandro Cosi that number 25 car in the best possible scenario, because he's 9 seconds ahead of his class rival David Fuminelli, and that number 11 Racing 1 car has to take 5 seconds of handicap as well. So they're in a very good position here, but out comes Gustav Bergström, well ahead of these guys. Remember, that car was in 3rd position before the driver change window opened, and there we see Niccolo Marinangeli coming out in the spirit of race Ferrari, and those 5 seconds that 51 car had to take seems to have hurt them a little bit. It's behind the Lamborghini, it's behind the Mercedes, both the Mercedes there, in fact.
Yeah, right in the thick of that mid-top 10 fight that we were watching earlier on. Polcini, though, managing to do enough to bring ahead of Pitamba. Fabian Schiller, who's now in the car in place of Anthony Bartone, posting the fastest lap of the race that we were seeing Alessio Dono pulling off 1:44s earlier on. Well, Fabian Schiller's added his name to the dance as well. 1:44.154 under his belt as he now goes hunting in terms of trying to raise the stakes here for his Mercedes outfit and for Get Speed as they now head down towards turn 6 and 7. Once again, they're still clustered in this midfield, but Polcini doing his damnedest for Team Oregon, the Italian outfit, spearheaded by Jerry Cannaviccio and Pier Giorgio Testa, who I'm sure will be cheering them on with intrinsic Italian passion, no doubt, as they head through into the next left, and then soon to be Sector 3 to come. The battle for 8th place very much underway as Dominic Baumann goes hunting in search of further points to try and repair the damage from yesterday. Obviously, it was a big incident for the SPS, but still, there's more to come. We've got a whole half a season still to go. We are at the halfway point, as now we see the Ferrari and the Lambos come together again.
And what's important here is that Eddie Cheever is ahead of all of the rivals who started with their bronze driver as well, despite that 10-second handicap it had to take. So he's going to have, in his class, bronze drivers ahead of him in the second half of this race. And right now, he's trying to round up Artem Petrov in the number 19 Oregon Lamborghini right in front of him. So right now, that is for 13th and 14th. But we'll see how it shakes out when the top 6, who are yet to stop, do their driver change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, with the current pro cars currently sitting in those top 3 places, you'd fathom, obviously, they would take the stint as long as they can. Obviously, with the timer ticking, you'd imagine in the next lap or 2 that they will be coming in to make their stops. I would imagine in the next lap, in fact, we'll see Dono, Fuminelli and Mettler swapping out for their co-drivers as now side by side they go on the run down through towards turn 4. And up the hill again, Petrov under attack here from Eddie Cheever as they climb the hill. Swapping all over the back is Cheever, who still revels in the... Oh, bit of contact as they came over the crest and now heading through towards turn 5. A chink in the armour potentially for the Oregon team Lamborghini. So Petrov, I tell you what, shields have to come up now with Cheever now pressing him.
I think Petrov just had a wobble through turn 4 there. And Cheever a little bit caught out by that, but still nose to tail as they make their way through the middle sector. So in has come Maximilian Paul and Alessio Deleda now climbing on board the number 10 Lamborghini, that sister car to this one we're watching now. And so now it's just top 5 yet to stop, and they're going to take this right down to the wire. 2.5 minutes left on the driver change window as Cheever again chases Petrov through the final sector. And you see how much quicker he was on that previous lap, practically pushing him through the penultimate corner there. And we see the Ferrari has had good apex speed, particularly in these longer corners, all race weekend long, with 26 minutes left on the clock. Don't tell me it started to rain again. I saw a wiper going there on the Ferrari in front. And no one else's wipers are going, so I don't think it's raining just yet.
Might have been a bird, I think, Chris.
Yes, we'll see, won't we? But in comes the race leader, Alessio Dono. He has done everything he needed to do to give Alessandro Cosi this car in the best possible position to take the fight to the Pro-Am runners. He is 10 seconds clear of his nearest class rival, Ernst Kirkmeyer, who is now getting on board the Racing One Ferrari just behind him in the pit lane. And Dexter Muller now getting on board the Carbahn Mercedes as well. There he is, 54. Yannick Mettler just hopping out. In goes Dexter Muller. And then finally, Christian Korzanowski handing over to Stanislav Jedlinski. And Kiki Saknana taking over the 786 get speed from Adam Osaka. So now we're going to see where everyone has shaken out. And the important thing is, where is Bergstrom going to be in relation to everyone else? Because for Bergstrom and Polcini, Leonardo Polcini, that is, and for Dominic Baumann, they are the top 3 pro runners at the moment, and they need to clear the any of the bronze drivers that come out in front of them.
Yeah. Speaking of drivers that need to be cleared, just look at Artem Petrov trying to keep Eddie Cheever at bay. Cheever looking so strong. There is Fabian Schiller. Out comes Alessandro Cosi. Well, he's truly in the clear. Look at Bergstrom there in the distance. Now they've got a catch up on their hands, because you've got Leonardo Polcini, the 2022 champion, who is currently sat in on-track 3rd. As now we see Cheever going around the outside here this time, having a look. This time around, now we've got the other cars coming out too, so they're going to form in between all of these runners here. There's Deleda being closely pursued by the number 9 Mercedes alike as they now sprint downstairs. Obviously, remember, Lorenzo Flusha doing the opening stint in that Merc, and now streaking down through towards turn 2. In comes the Merc now for a look up the inside. Contact made against the number 10 of Alessio Deleda. So Lucas Dunner now moves up to 5th.
Yeah, that was aggressive stuff from Fabian Schiller into turn number 2. And, right, let's see where everyone is shaking out there. So Alessandro Cosi in the Pro-Am. Oh, got another move here from Fabian Schiller, meanwhile, on Dexter Muller. And so that is Schiller up into 7th position. So Cosi leads by 12 seconds to Gustav Bergstrom. Let's see what the pace is compared to those two, as that's Lucas Dunner going through on Ernst Kirkmeyer. So Leonardo Polcini 3rd behind Bergstrom. Then it's Dominic Baumann. Now Lucas Dunner up into 5th position ahead of Kirkmeyer. You see them rounding up the bronze drivers in front of them. So Dexter Muller going backwards, as you'd expect. And the pro cars are making their way through. So that's Deleda and Marin Angeli who've just gone through. But of course, Dexter Muller only needs to worry about the Pro-Am runners. He's fighting for a podium in his class.
Yeah.
But the car behind him by about 6.5 seconds is Eddie Cheever.
Yeah, and I must say, Cheever is looking so quick. I've got my eyes pierced on the timing screen. He's just a 1/10 of a second as we last recorded, going past the previous transponder, and right on the rear of Artem Petrov's Oregon team Lamborghini. That's the number 10, though, belonging to Alessio Deleda as they streak down the long straight. Deleda towing along Nicola Marinangeli, who takes over in place of Vincent Abril after he did the opening stint. It wasn't an easy start for the Ferrari. As we now take a look at a replay, this is the moment where Lucas Dunner went up the inside of Deleda, coming through turn 2. Oh, sorry, Schiller. Apologies. Yes, you're absolutely right. Fabian Schiller up the inside of what looked to be Alessio Deleda coming through turn 2.
Yeah. There is some cosmetic changes on the front of that Mercedes after it hit the barriers yesterday at the end of the race. So it's Bergstrom, Polcini, Baumann trying to end up on the overall podium here, and waiting to see how the lap times compare, because the last lap from Cozy was his out lap. I can tell you right now, the gap is 8.7 seconds, so it's come down by more than half a second on this lap alone. The mission now is for Bergstrom and Polcini to chase down Cozy in the remaining 21 minutes of this race and clear him for the overall win, as Carol Basch and Simon Riker, the two Audis going side by side. It was Austria v Poland on Friday evening. Well, it's a rematch here in the International GT Open between the Austrian and the Polish teams.
And reminder, it was the Austrians who came out on top in that scrap, but this time Basch looking for, again, a redemption arc. There's been so many here at Hungaroring this weekend. Trying to have a look down the inside just to send a warning shot against Simon Riker this time. Maybe Carol Basch can get a run, as now we see some Cummins together as well. Ernst Kirkmeyer in the mix of all this, and he has got also alongside him the Deleda car making his way down through towards turn 1 in behind. We have got other Ferraris coming into the mix with Nicola Marinangeli just parked right in behind them here as they streak through towards turn 1. And this time Deleda with a nose in front just cruises past Ernst Kirkmeyer with Marinangeli just stuck in behind.
Those two Ferraris were second and third on the grid, remember, but Ernst Kirkmeyer in the Pro-Am entries, the Am in that combination, and so Marinangeli will look to round up Kirkmeyer in front of him. Of course, he was performing in the Am Championship last year, but now moving up to the Pro-Am category with new teammates and, well, a new team, in fact, compared to last year. Oh, Marinangeli getting tight up the inside. This is all for 8th position overall. You see the difference is made, because look how far Deleda has pulled clear just in a few corners since clearing the Racing One Ferrari. This is 2nd and 3rd overall at the moment. Our top 2 in the pro category. They've brought the gap down to 7.2 seconds to Alessandro Cosi. Bergstrom lapping about 1.5 seconds quicker than our race leader on the previous lap.
Yeah, I was just about to say about 1.5 seconds now. Bergstrom finding on Cosi in that previous lap, but being still pursued by Leonardo Polcini. But maybe it'd be sensible on Polcini's part just to sit behind and let the race come to him. You do have to wonder this, obviously, with us still having just under 20 minutes, just under 19.5 minutes still to go. There will be opportunities, no doubt, for everybody in the front end. Alessandro Cosi, no doubt, is going to try and do his best to defend the places, as we see Carol Basch now ahead, obviously, of Simon Riker, pursuing now after the Oregon team Lamborghini that just sits in front of him, obviously that being Artem Petrov, as they now cruise around the final corner at turn 14. Once again, they all scream down the home straight. The fans all in the grandstands watching these GT3 beasts make their way towards turn 1. And there you can see Dexter Muller, who has now been upended by by Eddie Cheever.
Yeah, so Cheever now onto the Pro-Am podium, 3.6 behind Kirkmeyer. For 2nd position in his class. I think it would be quite a job if he manages to make up the 21 seconds to our Pro-Am and overall race leader. This is how Marinangeli got through on Ernst Kirkmeyer and into 8th position overall. It was an exit out of turn 7 and then on the inside of 8. As still we see Leonardo Polcini, 2022 champion, chasing Gustav Bergström in his first year of GT3 competition, is the Swede, having joined us from Carrera Cup Scandinavia. And if he can reduce the deficit quick enough, again, 1.2 seconds taken out of Cozy on that previous lap. Cozy's still relatively early in his racing career as the 52-year-old Italian. In his second year of International GT Open competition, was 5th amongst the AM runners last year, now stepping up to Pro-Am, and he had 2 wins to his name last year, did Cozy, and well, he's going to rack up a Pro-Am win here, surely, if nothing goes wrong for them at this point. And just checking where they are in the standings at the moment, but they had a win in Portimao as well, so that was with Giorgio Sernigiotto with the car. Remember, Dono is a stand-in driver for this weekend as Sernigiotto is racing in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, so it could be a second victory of the season in Pro-Am for the number 25 crew.
Yeah, the gaps now on the last lap, 7/10 improvement from Bergström and Cozy as we now see them head down in towards turn 2 and now in towards turn 3 again. You can just see Baumann trying to get closer and closer to Polcini this time. Just look at the stream of pro cars now, all bound to the hip from P2 all the way down to P6. Fabian Schiller has also joined the fight. A 5-second time penalty has been added to the race time of the car 99, which belongs to Alex Arca, who unfortunately was given an unsafe release deemed by race control, therefore will receive a 5-second time penalty. That'll be added to his race time at the end of the race as they now peel through turn 6 and 7 once again. Still, there you can see the skull and crossbones of Anthony Bartone and Fabian Schiller's Mercedes-AMG GT3 now caught up with the rest of these runners, fighting it out in the top 6. It's getting juicy here at Hungaroring. Let's go.
Right, it would be one thing if these guys were all fighting for position at the moment, but they're still trying to chase down Cozy, remember. 5.5 seconds is the gap now. In an odd way, they need to work together and not waste time trying to close in on the Pro-Am car in front of them. And it does look like Schiller at the back of this queue is the one with the most speed at the moment. So it's Bergström, Polcini, Baumann, Dunner and Schiller all fighting for position 2nd through to 6th as it stands. Just under 16 minutes left on the clock. And, well, look at this. This is the motorpark car that was the 2 cars that made contact, more or less. It was through Vincent Abril, but at the start of the race. And Marcos Seibert, I didn't quite get past Simon Riker. He's still ahead in 15th position, but they're now line astern on track. Wow, yeah, both those cars out of the points at the moment, and it looks like it's going to be another disappointing day for 2 of our championship protagonists. So we'll see how that affects the championship standings after the race. But for now, Bergström soaking up the pressure from behind with 4 incredibly quick drivers directly behind him. Of course, Polcini, 2022 champion. Baumann, race winner in the GT Open, was on pole position yesterday. Lucas Dunner, still relatively early in his career, in his GT racing career, having made a return to full-time racing after a couple of years off. And then Mercedes works driver Fabian Schiller in the number 9 Get Speed car, desperately trying to make up for the disappointment of yesterday's DNF. A second non-point score for them of the season. See Eddie Cheever, is this him taking 2nd position in Pro-Am against Ernst Kirkmeyer, the AF Corsa Run Spirit of Race Ferrari, moving past the Racing 1 Ferrari on the inside at the penultimate corner. And so that's Cheever up to 9th position overall and 2nd of the Pro-Am runners. Further down in Pro-Am, we have Carol Bash and Alam Kader fighting for 4th position. Oh, as Carol Bash runs off wide there and might give Dexter Muller some invitation to get down the inside, but no way through for Muller on that occasion. Right, there is our race leader. There is the chasing back. 3.7 seconds now, another 1.3 seconds taken out of the race leader. Less than 14 minutes left to go on the clock. And interestingly, Schiller pulling out of the slipstream there of the Motorpark Mercedes in front of him. Oh, contact! Contact between 2 of our championship protagonists. They were well outside the points, but Simon Riker sent spinning by the Motorpark Mercedes. Marcos Seibert through into 15th. Simon Riker, after yesterday's jubilation of the victory and the heroics of Christopher Haase, Simon Riker now circulating in a very lowly 19th after that spin.
Yeah, tough visit for them. Obviously, off the back of that collision now, it sees them drop further down the order. Never a nice thing, obviously, witnessing grandeur like they did yesterday. It has since come undone after a collision with the Motor Park Pro car. Obviously, with Marco Seibert behind the wheel as they've caught up with Bergström in second place now. Leonardo Polcini obviously concerned about, oh dearie me, just trying to have a look up the inside, coming through into the third sector.
Nicola Marinangeli will tell you that move doesn't work. Remember last year, George? And oh dear, it's gone from bad to worse for East Talent. Whatever contact, whatever damage has been sustained there, it looks to have taken them out of the remainder of this race, with Riker pulling into pit lane. When it rains, it pours. But, wow, what a difference a day can make in the International GT Open victory. A sensational victory for the #1 crew yesterday. And indeed, that's a second non-points finish, or a no points race for them as well. So again, the 2 drop scores that you take at the end of the season, and these are critical points as well. So we'll have to wait until October to see how that will affect the final outcome in the championship, but certainly not an ideal day for the East Talent Racing team. Still, we have these 5 cars lying astern, and guess what? We're coming up on traffic as well. Stanislav Jedlinski in the Olymp Racing Ferrari could well play a part in this, as Alessandro Cosi, 2.6 seconds clear of these chasing pro cars, now coming up on some back markers as well. But it should be the only car for a while, I'd have thought. Yeah, a good 30 seconds or so to the next car up the road. So once they clear this slow-moving Ferrari, and yeah, Cosi able to go right around the outside of turn number 5 to try and clear that car. And now the pro runners are going to come up on Jedlinski as well. This could separate the pack a little bit, because they're coming into the section of track that is very much follow the leader.
Certainly is. As now they all peel through. Just look at that. Stanislav Jedlinski getting caught up in certainly this big battle that's happening. Once again, Polcini, another look down the inside of Gustav Bergström at the same place he did last time as they peel through the third sector this time. Dominic Baumann on the tail of this crew, as well as the many others that are peeling on, as well as Fabian Schiller, who is just sat behind Lucas Dunner. A sea of pro cars, all in the midst of trying to battle for a potential victory in this very race. We've got 10 minutes and 40 to go. Bergström now in second proper. They've got visibility of Alessandro Cosi, who is out in front of them as they venture through turn 13. And obviously now the time gaps, as you can now witness, 2.4 seconds now between Cosi and Bergström. The last lap alone, it was a 1:46.606 for Bergström. It was a 1:47.745 for Alessandro Cosi. That places them around the realms of a second difference between them. The gap now coming down again into 2.2s as Polcini once again goes hunting. Slightly defensive there from Lucas Dunner, very wary of Fabian Schiller. Locked in behind him, Nicola Marinangeli has displaced Alessio De Leda as well for that 7th place. So again, more twists in amongst the pro cars. Eddie Cheever still in Pro-Am second, trying to catch up with this crew of cars, but he will be branded Pro-Am second regardless, unless he manages to catch up with this pack heading, well, through in towards this big fight for the end of the race.
So Marinangeli 4 seconds back from this pack, and I wouldn't put it against them. He's, he will catch these guys by the end of the race. 10 minutes left on the clock. The incident between Riker and Seibert, by the way, will be investigated after the race. But there we see, that is the gap. 5 cars. It's so reminiscent of last year, George, when we had all those cars in an absolute string, and it was on the last lap where everything exploded. But first of all, there's another spanner in the works this time. It's Alessandro Cosi. The gap now 2 seconds between Cosi and Bergström, and that fleet of pro cars that he is bringing with them. Marinangeli and De Leda surely will be on the scene shortly. And I'll tell you what, I know I said that Cheever might not be able to reduce that 20-second deficit to Cosi, but he's halved it. He's 10 seconds behind the race leader and only 2 seconds back from Alessio De Leda. So depending on how quickly the pro cars dispatch of Cosi, or how quickly Cheever can get through some of the cars in front of him, there could still well be a change for the lead in Pro-Am, which would be, frankly, pretty astonishing, given that Alessio Dono's first in, and that the Chiva car had to take 10 seconds of handicap. Right, a little bit of contact there between Alessio De Leda trying to round up. Oh! There was a difference in apex speed there, wasn't there?
How's your reaction?
De Leda was trying to round up Stanislav Jedlinski there and put a lap on the Olymp Ferrari. There's the race leader. There is second place. 8 minutes left on the clock. And, well, the gap actually only went down by 1/10 of a second last time around. So, well, let's see how this plays out. The young Swede chasing his first victory in the International GT Open in his first year of GT3 competition alongside Nico Menzel, the Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion, who is Bergström has been under the tutelage of, and Polcini chasing his first win since returning to the championship as well. The 2022 champion has been staring at the back of that car collection Porsche for an awfully long time. Gap is now 1.1 seconds between the top two, so it could be next time around that Cozy finally has to relinquish the overall lead in this race. Look at the pack behind him, and it's not too far between Schiller and Marinangeli and the rest of the field as well. It's all closing up in the latter stages of this race. It's typical Budapest. It's leaving it right to the end to suddenly explode into action. And there we see the nervous faces of the AF Corsa garage. Their car is leading, and it's now under a second. That car that started on pole position at the hands of Alessio Dono, now being challenged, but here comes Polcini for second position on the inside of Bergström. Bergström tries to get the up and under and get the drag out of the first corner. Surely they will go side by side, yes, and Bergström is trying to squeeze Polcini over to the grass, but Polcini stands his ground on the inside at turn number 2. That could be a move that decides the lead of the race in about 6 minutes' time.
Yeah, great effort there from Leonardo Polcini. Got the job done. Gustav Bergström tried to reply, heading out of turn 1 in towards turn 2, but they are closing up at a rate of knots on the tail of Alessandro Cosi. 6 minutes of action still to come, and Polcini looking ever dangerous. This would be a phenomenal visit for this young talent who went on, after completing in the International GT Open in 2022, his first title charge, winning that title as a consequence, here returning at this season's venture with Team Oregon. The door left wide open by Alessandro Cosi, who crash. Cosi's off. Somehow, someway, Leonardo Polcini was able to keep it on the tarmac, and surely that's going to open the door wide open for Eddie Chiva in terms of this Pro-Am lead.
The AF Corsa garage is in absolute disbelief at that, and Polcini has hit the front, but will that contact be under investigation? Will Polcini face a penalty? Bergström surely is still going to fancy his chances here, and that does put Eddie Chiva back into the front of the Pro-Am standings, and that number 27 car now on course for back-to-back victories in the category. But let's keep an eye on the front of the field. So here it is again. Cosi runs out wide. Oh, he moves across. He was going to take his line and didn't really realise that the Lamborghini was alongside him, I don't think.
I think the speed was definitely in the favour of Leonardo Polcini. I just think Alessandro Cosi saw him catch up a little quicker than he would have expected. I mean, it would have been a phenomenal occasion should have Cosi taken an all-round overall win. But here at this point, Polcini in control and in charge at the very front of the order, still being pursued by Bergström, but Dominic Baumann still has an opportunity from third. Schiller has now found himself in fourth, ahead of Lucas Dunner. So Marinangeli is trying to catch up too. He's about 1.1 in behind, with De Leda being towed along. Chiva sits at 0.2 behind these front runners, but now has the Pro-Am lead in this race and looking to go back-to-back here this weekend.
Has that contact damaged the Lamborghini? That is the big question. Now, he's not shooting away from Gustav Bergström here, but does the Swede have an opportunity to take it back? Well, right now, Polcini's looking quite comfortable. He stretched the gap in just those few corners there, actually, to 1 second. So perhaps the Lamborghini is in good health. But now it's all about who's going to be joining him on the podium, perhaps. Less than 4 minutes to go. Late drama once again in Budapest. And we see Schiller has made his way past Lucas Dunner and is now up into fourth position. Right on the back of the podium here. So it's on the back of Baumann for a spot on the rostrum. Coming round the penultimate corner. Surely it'll be about 2 laps to go when we come across the timing line. Team Oregon perhaps on course now for a second victory of the season. It was their number 10 crew victorious in Hockenheim. It could be the 63 today, as we see once again the replay of Cozy into the side of Polcini's car. Polcini not only did really well to gather that up, but also to stay ahead of Bergstrom. You see Baumann fancied it on the inside of Bergstrom, but just couldn't quite take what would eventually be second place away from the Swede.
Yeah. Polcini now started to dance clear, 1.3 seconds. Out in front, Bergstrom still holding on to second, but Dominic Baumann trying to urge Emma closer. Schiller, though, fancying his chances on the back of the sister Mercedes. Only this time it's SPS against the Get Speed that now sits very closely in behind of Dominic Baumann. At least there could be a chance for Baumann and Patamba to appear on the podium this weekend. They would like to appear on the second step at the very least, should they be able to dispatch Gustav Bergstrom, who you can bet bottom dollar is going to make that very, very tricky indeed. As a consequence of Bergstrom bottling up this pack, it's allowing Polcini now to career away. 1.3 could yet become 1.4. It becomes 1.6 indeed, heading out of Sector 2 and now in towards Sector 3 this time. But all eyes as well on Schiller, who is now lurching closer. You just look at the time the last transponder left us with 1/10 of a second between Schiller and Baumann, with Baumann, I should say, 2/10 off Bergstrom. That is how tight this podium battle truly is.
Could well be starting the last lap in a moment. In fact, I think we will.
Oh,
and well, I'll tell you what, it's not over for Pro-Am because Alam Kadera's got something to say about it in the sister AF Corsa run Ferrari 296. So 2 teammates there vying for the Pro-Am lead in 8th and 9th overall. But onto the last lap comes Leonardo Polcini, leading the battle for second place. Ahead of him, unsurprisingly, cars 25 and 63 will be investigated after the race for that contact at turn 8. Can't see Polcini getting anything for that, but we will see. He is 1.6 seconds clear at the start of the final lap of this battle for second place. Marin Angeli has now arrived onto the scene on the back of Lucas Dunner's car. Now, will there be any changes for the podium on this final lap? Heading through turn 4 for the final time. Bergstrom still leads Baumann and Schiller and Dunner, and Marin Angeli heading through the second sector.
Yeah, Polcini in control now. The gap very nearly stretching to 2 seconds here at this point. Bergstrom doing his best to try and uphold. It's been a great race for Bergstrom. Obviously, we alluded back to the hardship at Spa. Now we see some wheel-to-wheel further back. Now that is between the motor park and also Nicola Marinangeli, who this time around this particular sector of corners is going to be a little more successful and has made the move stick ahead of Lucas Dunner. That's a move for P5. He's growing all the time, is Nicola Marinangeli. The more experience he has, the better he gets with every turn. He'll be absolutely thrilled with that.
Oh, sensational move for 5th position there on Lucas Dunner, right around the outside. Fantastic stuff as the battle for second place. Oh, it's not over yet. Dunner trying to get up on the inside there, but that is of no concern to Leonardo Polcini, who will exit the final corner and for the first time since his return to the International GT Open takes victory at the Hungaroring. He and Simon Connor Prim are on top in race number 2. Gustav Bergstrom just hangs on to second place ahead of Dominic Baumann. It is a second podium finish for the Car Collection Porsche team. Still squabbling further back with the Attempto Racing Audi, trying to round up Ernst Kirkmeyer. Alex Acker trying to get into 5th position in his category and stay ahead of Jim Plat. But it is Kirkmeyer who comes home in 5th position. His car's ahead of Alex Acker and Jim Plat there with Aaron Walker just behind Dexter Muller as well. Team Oregon, for the second time this season, are on top. Firstly, with the number 10 car in Hockenheim. This time, it is the 63.
It's been 2 years since I can say Leonardo Polcini wins in the International GT Open. Once again, this time at Hungaroring in race 2 in 2024. The returning champion, who has obviously performed well, as a Lamborghini factory driver with Conor Prim, who came in this weekend. A phenomenal effort by both drivers concerned. Obviously, Leonardo Polcini has certainly travelled a lot since we last saw him. And no doubt the celebrations at Team Oregon in full flow. Jerry Canavicio, I'm looking outside of my commentary box window, is brandishing a pirate flag, a staple of Team Oregon that was waved in the 2022 championship victory that Polcini managed to bring in that heroic photo when he and Benjamin Hites stood on top of their own Lamborghini Huracan GT3 that would crown them champions back then. What an occasion. Great to have Leonardo Polcini back and on top in the International GT Open.
And they are the pirate team. Face some competition with that, given that the Bartone bros have got the skull and crossbones on their number 9 Get Speed car. But let's take a look at the results. Simon Conor Prim and Leonardo Polcini on top for Team Oregon, ahead of Gustav Bergström and Nico Menzel in the car collection Porsche. Dominic Baumann and Mikael Pitamba, some gratification after yesterday's disappointment with a podium finish. Fabian Schiller and Anthony Bartone 4th for Get Speed. Nicola Marinangeli and Vincent Abril 5th for Spirit of Race. Lucas Dunner and Lorenzo Fluxer 6th for Motorpark, ahead of Alessio Deleda and Maximilian Paul. And Polcini and Chiva taking the Pro-Am victory, ahead of Alam Kader and Carol Bash. And then Marcos Seibert 11th after being tagged at the first corner. Cozy coming home 12th in the end, ahead of Kirkmeyer and Fuminelli. And Valoba Corsa in 14th, ahead of the number 6 Get Speed and the Carbon Mercedes. Marzio Moretti and Petrov in 17th position. ISR in 18th, and then the number 12 car collection in 19th. And then Michele Rugolo. And then we lost Simon Riker and Christopher Haase, Morten Stromsted and Thomas Eichen, and Heiko Neumann and Timo Rumpfkarl after contact between the two Motorpark Mercedes at the start of the second lap. Here is what it's done to the championship standings. Dominic Baumann and Mikael Pitamba lead the championship at the halfway mark, ahead of Marcos Seibert and Diego Menchaca, who still leave here second, with Alessio Deleda effectively third in the standings. And Polcini has brought the 63 back into Parc Ferme. Simon Conor Prim is there to greet him. Oh, it's all relatively tame in Parc Ferme. Ah, there we go. Now it's getting a bit more exciting. And we see the car collection teammates embracing as well. It's a second podium finish for Bergström and Menzel. We see Bergström in his first year of GT3 competition, going from strength to strength, but of course Jerry Canavicio, the Oregon team boss. I don't know what he's saying there. Again, we need an Italian translator in here, George, or some sort of live translation. But the celebrations in pit lane as Polcini came across the line. I look forward to seeing what Polcini had to say about that one.
Yeah, fabulous occasion, and I think you can sort of read between the lines in the manner that Oregon won this one. This was one that they, I'm sure, will truly cherish. It's been a while since they've tasted requisite success. It has been an easy season for them. It's obviously the most competitive campaign we've witnessed in the many years in the International GT Open, with such a staunch grid of immense cars that have come into the rostrum. And you look at the pro fields, the Pro-Am fields, such huge numbers. Polcini, he's just been devastating today.
Dominic Baumann and Mikael Pitamba are new championship leaders after their second podium finish of the season, in third in the number 20 SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes. A second podium finish also for the number 15 car collection Porsche, Gustav Bergström and Nico Menzel. So near yet so far for the Porsche team. But on the top step for the first time since his return to the championship, Leonardo Polcini sharing the car with Simon Conor Prim. They're downstairs with Alfredo Filipponi.
So what a great race here at the Hungaroring, and a very lively finale. The winners, Simon Conor Prim and Leo Polcini with the Oregon Lambo. Simon, you started, so how was it?
Yeah, we had a really good start from P9 to P5 immediately. Then I struggled with a bit of pace. Just wanted to come in the pits with mistakes. We had a bit of problems with the back of the car, but I managed to stay in front of the other guys. Then we had a good pit stop. Went over to Leo. We went to P3 because some others, I think, had a handicap. And then Leo did an amazing job overtaking the two people and won the race. It's just amazing. First time here in GT Open for me. It's just crazy to win the race now. But Leo did a really good job, all the team. Thanks to them. And it's crazy now. Speechless.
Yeah, fantastic debut for you, Leo. Of course, we know, but a very nice fight at the end. And how was it?
Crazy end. You know, it was a misunderstanding with the Ferrari. There was the slippery flag after the chicane in turn 9, and I think he thought it was a yellow flag, and he slowed down a lot. We had a contact, but I think he's fine. Very good job to Simon for his first appearance in the championship. He did a mega start without trouble, and yeah, it was finally after 4 races. I have my first victory of the year, and I hope many more. I want to thank you, Oregon team, for the amazing job, and Lamborghini Squadra Corse for the support.
Well done, guys. Podium now.
Let's take a look back at the last 60 minutes of action. It was all action at the start of the race. Haase into the back of Abril, into the side of Menchaca. Disaster for our championship leaders going into this last race of the weekend. And Marcos Seibert having to recover the car. We saw Christian Korzanowski making up good ground in the early stages of the race, but then we went under safety car. The two motor park cars coming together with Morten Stromsted getting hit by Heiko Neumann. We believe some sort of issue on that car, but Alessio Dono handing over the car to Alessandro Cosi in a fantastic position, but contact later on between two of our championship protagonists. As we saw, this was the move that secured Leonardo Polcini the win in the end against his pro counterparts. Not before this contact, though, between Cosi and Polcini. Polcini able to gather the car up and still stay in the lead of the race. Disaster for Cosi, though, who was on course for a bare minimum, a Pro-Am podium. But for Polcini, a first victory since his return. And for Simon Connor Prim, a first victory in the GT Open. And putting their name into the hat for the championship fight as well. Of course, Polcini returning to the championship that helped him make his name and helped him become a Lamborghini factory driver when he won the title in 2022. He was given factory status not long after that. And now back in the championship and proving why Lamborghini put his trust in him in the first place.
Yeah, reunited with the team that got him there. Obviously, it was a tremendous season on his part. Mikel Patamba, no doubt, I think, happy to at least get some sort of redemption. You know, really enjoyed that jig heading up to the third step of the podium. And a nice, gracious, you know, obviously celebration in between the car collection Porsche. And with Gustav Boschum, Nico Menzel, great job again on their part. There's Jerry Canavicio, and here's the national anthem.
The Italian national anthem for Team Oregon, our 5th different winners in the 2024 season. We've had Faisal Al-Zubair and Michael Grenier. We've had Fabian Schiller and Anthony Barton, Chris Vassar and Simon Riker, Jordan Pepper and Alessio Deleda, and now Simon Connor Prim and Leonardo Polcini. For our new championship leaders there on the right-hand side, the number 20 SBS crew, that is only their 2nd podium of the season. Can you believe it? There's 2 podiums, but they've been in the points in every single race so far, which is not something that really anyone else in the championship picture can say at the moment, and that's why they're leading it. The trophies for the car collection team, and of course for our race winners. Leonardo Polcini and Simon Connor-Prim, and Jerry Cannaviccio, the team boss, joins them on the top step of the podium. And we were talking about his colourful trousers earlier, George. Well, today's another cracker.
Donning the blue ones here today, but certainly not feeling blue this time around. It's definitely going to be one to remember for Team Oregon. And reunited once more, Cannaviccio and Polcini. And to great success alike, and I'm sure there'll be more to come. Still got quite the calendar, still just around the corner. A trip to Paul Ricard comes up next for these contenders. And I would say, certainly given the struggles that the car collection Porsche had yesterday, to come back the way they've done too is certainly admirable. Plenty of champagne being sprayed, pit amber, with a consolation prize to take home, at least after the difficulties they had yesterday in trying to close out their race. Given the rain making the impact that it did, obviously never an ideal position to be put in, and with the impending Christopher Haas, Marcello Hahn and Alain Couder are no doubt celebrating. They've come here to Hungaroring to great success here in qualifying in the past and taken 2 poles back to back. They have been champions in their own right as well, now back on the podium once more.
Alain Couder saying it was so close. It was so close. It was close. It was 0.4 of a second between the Pro-Am leaders in the end. And they were line astern on track as well. But it is back-to-back victories for Eddie Cheever and Marco Polcini. We'll see them on the podium shortly. The Get Speed team celebrating as well, because it's also back-to-back victories for them in the HAM category as well. But here is the Pro-Am podium. So 3rd position for Karol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski. It is their 4th podium finish of the season. In 2nd position, it is Alain Couder and Marcello Hahn in the Blau Motorsports car, just by 0.4 of a second to the winners in the end, but a 2nd appearance on the podium this season for them. Back-to-back victories for Marco Polcini and Eddie Cheever, and a celebratory selfie as well. That is well earned. What a week Polcini's having. He got to drive the Ferrari F60 2009 Formula 1 car at Fiorano a few days ago, and now 2 wins in the International GT Open.
Yeah, back-to-back here at Hungaroring, and you can't see that very often when it comes to racing, and especially in a competitive Pro-Am field that we have. But the Michelin representative presenting the trophies to the combination of Eddie Cheever and Marco Polcini, who have come off the back of winning the title last season. Certainly in a great place to win it for a 2nd year running. Alain Couder and Marcello Hahn straight away spraying that champagne. And obviously Karol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski, a great effort on their part. Still consistently up there and fighting, as they so often are, in that Audi R8 LMS.
Great to see. Of course, they were title rivals. Bash and Jedlinski going up against Cheever and Polcini last year. It's very much the same story this year, but with so many more potential contenders in there as well. I mean, we were talking about Morten Stromstedt. That car has had 4 podium finishes in Pro-Am so far this year. Definitely a contender in there, but a bit of a weekend to forget for that team, that crew, unfortunately. Could hurt them in the championship standings. Spare a thought for Alessandro Cosi as well. Of course, was in a really strong position, that Pro-Am fight, with about 5 minutes left to go.
Fabulous. Alain Couder there. And also Adam Osaka giving a wave earlier on alike. But out onto the podium goes Christian Korzynowski and Stanislav Jedlinski, who had a very active final stint there for Stanislav Jedlinski. He was right in the thick of it with all the pro contenders looking to win the race. Literally flying all over the back of his car, and there was one evasive moment. Adam Osaka delighted, and he has every right to be. I believe that's back-to-back wins for them in AM.
It is indeed
for Kiki Saknara and Adam Osaka. So the AM title still very much in the mix, and no doubt Kiki, such a humble figure in the paddock here in the International GT Open. Both he and Adam, such great shining lights in this series.
For Christian Korzynowski and Stanislav Jedlinski, it is a 3rd podium finish in AM this season. For Giuseppe Cipriani, should still lead the standings. He's yet to finish off the podium in AM so far this year. And for the 786 Get Speed crew, it's back-to-back victories, a third win of the season adding to their AM win in Hockenheim in race 1. The AM fight is closing up indeed. That is all she wrote for the GT Open in the Hungaroring. We will see you at the circuit Paul Ricard in Le Castellet on the 20th and 21st of July.